Charles Purcell presents.
Hey, Charles Purcell here. I want to get you guys up to speed on what's new in the podcast world here. The new show is a solo show for the most part. Occasional guests, improvised stories, scenes, commentary, of course. Going to introduce some new characters. In fact, we've already done a couple of episodes. They haven't really met their full bloom yet, but we got started. We're going to take a little sidetrack here for the next 5 episodes with my buddy, the Skrauss. He came in for a nice long, a couple times. We had a couple of hours of conversation, and I've edited that down and going to give you the highlights. He's just a special guy. He's a lot of fun to listen to, and we're going to talk about the birthing of a new show that he had an idea for, kind of a callback talk show. Money, conservative versus liberal, subvertising, what other things we talked about. The role of myth and chance in art. So that's what's going to happen here for the next few episodes, and then we'll get back to the solo show where you're going to meet the different characters. We'll go back and layer in some sound, and it'll be a lot of fun. But as I said, a little sidetrack. For the next 5 episodes, we're going to talk with the Skrauss. We begin right here talking about the idea of radio art. So you had an idea for some radio art?
Yes, I think it's time for radio art.
I love that you actually used that term.
I love that term. You actually coined that term, I believe, in my life. You're the first person who's ever used it, and I think it's very useful. And it's an underutilized medium.
Completely underutilized.
For art, specifically.
Yeah. Did you have any particular ideas you want to start with?
Well, my first idea, my show, Image for Hire, I wanted that. So far, it's just been 2 people talking. Mm-hmm. And I want it to be more, as a starting place, more like a talk show. As a starting place. You know, where you have the interview, you have the shtick with the musician, you have the skits. Mm-hmm. And then that's just the starting place. I want to get even more bizarre from there. And explore the possibilities of radio.
Which is just so limitless. I whenever I'm kind of on the when I'm preaching about this from my pulpit,
yeah,
I'll say, picture a tennis ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's the realm in which radio lives right now. There's news, there's sports, there's talk shows, there's podcasts, which is mostly 2 people talking.
I know it could be so much more,
and it's really great. It's a great tennis ball.
It is a great tennis ball.
But what radio could do is more the size of a bowling ball, a basketball. I
think of it more of that
globe.
tennis ball is floating in the ocean, and we need to open it up.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, this is better. Yeah, but we agree on the point. It's just, the potential of radio is so untapped.
I know, and I love it, especially because it's better than film and cinema because it's my imagination that's being worked with. It's the partnership between the radio and the listener.
Yes.
Which, and I mean, they've done studies. You've heard about this. When you watch TV, your brain goes to sleep. That kind of
exactly shtick. Right. Yeah.
I don't think that happens with radio.
No. In fact, just the opposite. Radio is a very active. Your brain is active.
Yeah.
You know what they tell us. Yeah. Watching television, your brain is a passive experience.
Yeah. Just a recipient. It's hypnotic.
Listening to radio is an active experience for your brain. Reading is even more active.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, for sure.
So let's chuck all this and just go write novels. But no, we're in totally agreement. Well, the listeners, I hope, are familiar with Stream of Consciousness Talk Radio Theater. You were stellar in that. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll relaunch it again sometime.
Well, what I like about that is that it was a finite work.
Yeah.
So when it comes back, it could be something totally different.
Yeah. I only bring it up because in comparison to what your goal is, similar to that, or how is it different or the same?
It's similar because I would incorporate that. It's different because it would be live on the radio with a musician.
Live.
And the actors.
Good. And I thought about that in the early days of conceptualizing SCTRT, that it would be a live guest. And then everything just got so complicated.
Oh yeah,
it's a big endeavor to do that live. You need a whole company, like you said, actors.
You do, and
sound effects people.
The sound effect
musicians.
guy is the most important. He really needs to, or she really needs to know what they're doing.
Yes,
because where do you find somebody like that? There's no school to learn sound effects.
Yeah,
that's a lost art. You have to make it up again.
See, and this is for the benefit of the listener because you know this very well. my notion was to not use live sound effects, but to find a DJ type person who could really just find sounds very quickly
Right.
on his or her laptop or computer, to have a big library of sounds and to draw from that. And I thought I'd have the best chance of finding the right person there. But that was difficult
right.
too.
Because of DJ. Yeah, that's hard because I remember the several iPads you had on the table. It was hard to access.
Yeah.
The icons all looked alike, in the different folders, and it was hard to get through.
Right.
But the old sound effects guys would be able to come up with 100 different sounds using a balloon, as an example.
Right. And a really good DJ who's got their own system.
Okay, so they know they can
find
easily access.
They can find a sound
Sure.
right on this. So the two different ways to go about it. Anyway.
Well, the best would be to mix them.
Yeah. No reason you can't have both. I was listening recently to the older shows. The very first.
Oh, really?
I consider
I'm afraid to go back to
we
those.
had 3 seasons basically.
That's true.
The original cast, then the second cast, which maintained you and a couple other people, but brought in some new people, and then the third cast, which was the hired actors, and that was more polished, and we edited those shows.
So great. The editing made him so awesome.
But to my surprise, I really liked that first season.
Oh yeah.
It's
I remember
raw.
the first episode. I really liked that a lot.
It's raw and it's free and it's weird.
Yeah.
And it just goes places nobody expected. It's all happening live. So Ryan would put in a sound effect of a dolphin, but we're in the forest. So somebody says, "Oh, there goes the forest dolphin," and you said, "Oh yes, he swims through the trees," and like things that would never happen.
Yeah, that's true.
That first season is pretty great. I was surprised at how much I liked it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll go back and revisit it.
So my new radio show, I've done 3 episodes so far. Essays, commentary, stories.
Is there a name for that?
Scenes.
Is that like Andy Rooney would do? You're talking about like an Andy Rooney type thing, except maybe not with his humor or banter.
Yeah, I don't have
Right.
Andy Rooney's humor.
Yeah, or eyebrows. You don't have those either.
Notice? Did you ever notice that when you're doing a commentary on the radio,
That's
you
pretty
never know
good.
anything? But just your basic opinion column, and that sort of translates to radio. So it's and most of it's improvised. Like I'll do improvised stories in a character. Like
Okay.
the name Chucky Bucky came up from Anja there.
Yeah.
So I thought, Chuck, what would Chucky Bucky sound like? So I do this guy, and he does improvised monologues.
Nice.
And then I've got another guy who's kind of sounds a little like Jimmy Stewart.
Oh.
But that's not the intention to do an impression. It's just I thought that was a really good kind of older Uncle Chuck kind of a character.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's this other dude, man. His name is Chaz. So they're all different variations of Charles, man. But this is like a California dude, so he's Chaz.
That's great. I love those voices.
So I do improvised stories.
Okay. That's cool. Do you practice doing voices?
No, not really.
They just come out spontaneously.
I do voices when I'm driving in my car.
Oh. That's a good idea. That's good practice.
And I'm actually bad at accents. I thought of doing a character whose accent kept changing. as like a physical malady that he had. It was a very Pythonian idea.
Yeah, that's good.
Because when I try to do an accent, you see,
Yeah.
sometimes it morphs into something else. And all of a sudden, you're talking like this. And then suddenly, hey, back, you gotta bring the fish over here. And I can't hold on to an accent. It becomes something else. The accent keeps changing and changing. I can't hold on to it. So I thought maybe have a character who seeks help because this is his malady.
Yeah. That's a brilliant malady. Accent dysmorphia. Do you have an impression of me?
I have to work on that because you have a very distinct voice. If you were a celebrity, everybody would be impersonating you.
Really? Yeah. And I mean, it's not just my voice; it's the cadence and everything, right?
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. I wonder what that is.
Your cadence and presentation, I think, is as unique as what's his name, the guy everybody does. Do you blank? Do you blank on live radio? Does your brain just stop?
It stops on live life, radio or not.
Okay,
Yeah, in fact, the
regardless
other night, I was trying to say this word I'm trying to think of now. What's that word where you? And I actually said to the guest, "What's that word where you your senses get mixed and you can see, you smell colors?" what is that word? I can't remember.
It'd be funny if it happened on a really, like, what is that? What's that word that you put between is? Yeah, is. I-S. Yeah, is. That's the word.
Yeah, why does that never happen? I wish that would happen more often. That would be hilarious. I hear a skit coming.
For the life of me, I can't come up with this guy's name. He's hosted SNL many times.
Oh, okay.
He was in Deer Hunter. Everybody impersonates him.
Wait a minute. Not the guy who's on The Simpsons. The lawyer on The Simpsons?
No.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure.
That's very good. That's very good. That's Phil Hartman,
Phil Hartman, yeah.
who died.
Oh, poor guy. He had a great voice.
Christopher Walken. Christopher
Walken.
Christopher. Is it Walken or Walken?
I always hear Walken.
I'm walking. Yes, indeed. I'm walking. Yes, indeed. And I'm talking. Christopher Walken. He has this unique. I'm going to edit half of what we just did.
Oh, come on, don't. Okay. Make it snappier.
A lot of it was pretty
Improve
good.
the timing.
I'll just make it snappier.
Yeah,
See, that's another great secret that I use. And maybe the listener, I shouldn't tell the listener. I should keep it a secret.
No. Wear it on your shirt sleeve. I like seeing the strings. Are you familiar with Bertolt Brecht?
Bertolt, yes, of course.
Good.
Why does he come up here?
He showed the seams.
Oh.
Right? So he didn't believe in verisimilitude. He wanted everybody to know always that they were watching a play.
Oh.
And the results were absurd moments, like the characters suddenly breaking out into song for no reason. Or
wonderful.
There was a curtain that he had going across the stage, and the cable that the curtain ran on, he made them polish it so that it would gleam in the lights, and it was not invisible.
Huh. That's great.
Yeah. And he also developed gestus. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's a method of acting where you just show the affect of the emotion. You don't necessarily reach down and feel it. You just show it.
Now, why in the world would you want to do that?
Because he wanted to destroy verisimilitude. Because his message
Define that word
was
for
so
me.
important. The mimicry of real life.
Oh, got it. I'm with you now. All right. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, my secret is that I do a great deal of editing.
Mm-hmm.
So what sounds like a live conversation, what you're hearing all happened live, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but the editing.
Yeah.
I take out empty spaces. I take out ums and ers and ahs.
Good for you.
And take out things that aren't useful.
Yeah.
That aren't getting us to anywhere interesting. And I do quite a lot of editing.
Good.
Fresh Air with Terry Gross.
Is that edited?
An institution. They've been around forever.
It's edited.
It's edited. It's a live conversation.
That's why she sounds so good.
It is edited. And in the early days of editing, where you actually had to splice the physical tape.
I've done that.
Well, when I was back in college, my job to support myself at the time was I painted banners for the university's performing arts group. At large universities, they'll bring in big-name comics and lecturers and musical acts, and I would paint big portraits of them and make the big banners.
Really? Are you familiar with Deadly Prey Gallery?
No.
It's a Chicago gallery. They sell paintings that were painted on flour sacks by artists in an African country, Ghana, I believe, in Ghana, that advertise films.
Oh,
so they didn't have the film poster from Hollywood.
Okay.
They would paint their own.
Nice.
They're wonderful.
So this is my example of making a short story long again. I say
love
that
it.
because sometimes I would spend an entire day painting.
Yeah.
Which was wonderful.
Okay.
Large portraits and lettering, and it was great. So I would have headphones on listening to NPR because that's the kind of guy I was.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed listening because I've got headphones. I'm hearing very clearly, finding the edits in
brilliant.
Fresh Air with Terry Gross.
Yeah.
And I got very good at it. I didn't catch them all. And it's not like you hear a little click.
No, of course not, because
they're very good at it.
Yeah.
What you hear, maybe a breath is cut off just a little bit short. Or you'll hear just a little bit of a change in tone and voice.
What?
I've
noticed that sometimes.
wasn't natural.
Yeah.
So I made it a little game of going, oh, there's one.
Uh-huh.
There's one.
Nice.
Yeah.
And why not? It should be, if it's not live, it should be edited.
So, I edit the hell out of everything I do.
Cool. Good.
And I think that's just fine. That's just part of what I do.
No, I mean, music is produced, right?
Yeah.
Films are edited.
Yeah. So, have we gotten any further here on deciding what live radio art can be?
No, we haven't.
Because
it's untapped. We don't even know what it is.
yeah, I mean, the basic structure that we've kind of come up with together and separately, it's kind of built organically. That whole SCTRT thing,
Right.
live,
Yeah, the talk show format.
wild.
The
Yeah.
variety show talk show format.
Yeah. See, I like the idea of just going deep into just the long form improv,
That would be interesting
where
too.
it's nothing but absurdist long form improv, actors, sound effects, go.
Right.
What's going to happen in a half an hour or even an hour,
Right.
or get really weird and go 4 hours. Just see what happens.
That would be awesome and
Yeah.
exhausting. Wow, being on for that long, I can't imagine that would take some training.
I once attended, well, actually thrice attended the annual National Public Radio Conference.
Really? I didn't know they had
And,
one.
yeah, there's and National Public Radio affiliate stations, public radio stations from all over the country come for an annual conference, and they share ideas, and it's a convention like other industries have conventions. And 3 years in a row, I attended, and there would be big speakers, and so I grabbed the mic after a presentation by some big mucky muck. I forget who it was. I got a chance to ask a question, and I'll probably fumble it now like I fumbled it then. But I said basically, NPR is really great at featuring artists. You'll interview artists, you'll present their work,
I think I know where this is going.
but there's always a mediator.
Right.
Will there ever be a time when you hand over the microphone and the production to the artists themselves and let them create art?
What'd they say?
They looked at me like I had 5 heads.
Come
They
on.
literally couldn't understand my question.
I see, and this comes back to the discussion we had about dumb people in the truck. As soon as you come up with something awesome, people they just can't comprehend. You're a freak
Yeah.
for bringing it up.
He came up with some answer that didn't even approach what I was asking.
Right. Had nothing
But you
to do with
understood
you're
what I was
talking about.
asking, right?
Yeah, of course. Wouldn't that be awesome if artists?
And now I'm going to brag a little bit. I'm going to do
Yeah.
a little name dropping.
Okay.
But I'm really proud of this one.
Yeah.
Andrei Kudrescu,
Okay.
who
The race
is-
car driver.
who is a poet from, what's the vampire country where all the vampires come from? Romania?
No.
No.
Not Yugoslavia.
From that country.
Transylvania.
Yeah, from the real Transylvania.
The real Transylvania.
I forget the name of the country. Anyway, a wonderful poet who I admired for many years, and he was featured. I knew him because he was featured back when NPR was cool,
Okay.
when they had people like poets and socialists,
Right.
on the live air. He approaches me after it. He approaches me
Yeah.
after the Q&A is over. Introduces himself. I can't believe it. He's like a hero.
You
to me.
recognized him?
No,
Or he introduced himself?
And I of course recognized his voice immediately.
Oh.
He has a very thick accent.
How could you recognize his voice? Spoken word poetry recordings?
Again, he was featured on NPR.
Oh,
he would
right,
do
right.
commentaries.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah,
They would have a poet do commentaries?
back in the day, man. NPR used to be cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd imitate him if I could, but I can't.
Okay.
Can you do a vampire accent?
I
know exactly what they were talking about.
Is it really? He
I
said
knew-
that.
He said, I knew exactly what you were getting at. I think it's, he agreed with me. Yeah.
But the people that are in charge of things typically don't have imagination because their stronger skill is organization
Yeah.
and delegation, things like that, functional things, not exploratory things.
The Peter
So-
Principle. You know about the Peter Principle?
No.
There's a book written many years ago, and the theory is that people advance through business just past their strength. In other words, an example that I'm familiar with, I'm a radio producer, okay? And I'm a very good radio producer. So you do good work, you get promoted.
Okay.
So I become a senior producer. Wow, you're doing great. Even better. You're just advancing through the company and you're excelling in your field. So I went from associate producer to producer and then senior producer. And now we need an executive producer. So you're the logical hire. But now executive producer has to do sort of executive things and managerial things. So I'm not so good at that anymore. But I got the job because I was so good at it as producer.
Right. So the two things are not even related except by name.
So now I've become the executive producer, and I've gone past my worthiness, and I'm not good at it.
Uh-huh.
And so the Peter Principle is that that everybody advances until they suck.
Okay.
And that's why all middle management is terrible.
Oh.
Because they've all been promoted for doing a good job
Interesting.
in their job until they were terrible.
Right. I feel like that's not fair, though, because the executive producer is a completely different job than producing a show.
Yes, it is. That's the point.
And so they should hire somebody else to be executive producer.
But they don't. That's the problem, and that's the problem this Peter guy was pointing out. People get promoted until they suck.
Right, and then everything sucks. Yeah, that's problematic, and I don't know how you would avoid that, because you don't necessarily want an executive producer who knows nothing about production.
Right.
Right, that would be bad, too.
It's a conundrum.
It is. How do you solve that?
Yeah, I don't know. And this book was written many years ago.
Sure.
I'm sure there've been,
Other
people trying to solve this since.
Yeah. There's so many conundrums in society. You remember that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where there's two serfs in the field and
Yes.
King Arthur walks by and they're
My
like,
favorite scene of all time.
"What are we taught? Distributing swords, no means for a method of government." Right, so they have these philosophical discussions. And
Right.
I would love to see that break out in a football game. The Green Bay Packers are playing today when a philosophical discussion broke out in the stands. Police were called in. 17 people were escorted out in handcuffs.
Woody Allen does this exact thing. I forget which movie, but he hires a prostitute just to have a conversation with him. She's trying to unbutton his shirt. He said, no, I just wanted to talk to you about Hegelian dialectic.
That's pretty good.
He can't find anybody to have a conversation with.
You got to hire him.
So he hires a prostitute.
Yeah. I put myself out for rent as a friend on Rent a Friend.
Hey, oh, yeah?
But I think that's a scam. I don't think it's real.
Yeah.
And nobody's called me anyway, so it's not worked out.
I saw a little handmade flyer over at the coffee shop for a guy who likes to play backgammon.
Oh, cool.
He said, call me up. I'll play backgammon with you. And if you don't know how, I'll teach you.
Whoa, cool.
All free, just to hang out with somebody.
Yeah.
All the little slits with his number on the bottom.
Oh,
You take
nice.
one.
Wouldn't be the wackiest thing you could do for a thing with slits and numbers on it.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I'll think about that.
And then we should do it. It could be like a performance. It could be a great way to meet people and do a weird piece of performance, social interaction art. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make one of those pieces of paper with the slits and the phone numbers.
Okay.
And it's going to be a conversation. And I might even say that it will be recorded. Do you think I'd get any calls from that? Be on the radio.
You mean they would come to your studio?
Yeah. I'd bring them into River West Radio.
I see.
Or I could just meet them with a recording device.
Another option for this little flyer you're going to put out.
Yeah.
They could do it right from the spot. Call right now.
Whoa, that would be even better.
And we could put them through and put them on the phone. You and I could be here waiting for them.
We could call between these hours.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
And we could just sit here and wait for the calls.
And then we could talk while we're waiting. That's our show.
I think we got it.
Let's do it. When do you want to do it? I'll make the flyer right now.
Anytime. You know me, my days are free. I work nights. Are you?
What are you, a prostitute?
Yeah.
There's a guy that I used
talk
to see
about
on the street
Hegelian
all the time.
dialectic.
When I first met this guy, he introduced himself as Popeye from Hollywood, and then he did an impression of Popeye.
Which that's my Popeye impression.
His
That's all
was
I
just
can
as
do.
good, but then he would actually add words to
See,
it.
that's all I can do.
His name is Warren. He's a 90-year-old World War II vet, and
Does he have a jutting jaw?
he does. Have you seen him?
No, but Popeye had a jutting jaw.
Yeah, he did. He did have a jutting jaw. But anyway, I brought this guy up to say that. Yeah, I don't remember. I totally lost it.
I sabotaged your.
He was a good guy, though.
line.
Good old Warren. He's in the VA now, permanently. I have no idea why I brought up Warren. Sometimes I go down rabbit trails trying to explain
Yeah.
too much that isn't necessary.
And we always interrupt each other with our little quips, our little humorous quips.
The quips are more important than the actual
They
story.
really are. Who cares about? That's where
Just edit out all the stories and just
Yeah.
put the quips together.
Yeah. Well, that's where Stream of Consciousness, Talk Radio Theater, the very, very first birthing of that thought.
Mm-hmm.
I was studying radio broadcasting at the time at university level. And all of my teachers and advisors were telling me how you got to hold the listener's hand. You got to always be resetting the topic. You got to keep things focused.
Yeah.
And it's like you with the Toastmasters, like rules, 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 man. I'm going to make a show that just follows stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
They're going to talk about
Whoa,
the
you've
tax.
been itching to do that for that long?
Oh, since I was a kid in college.
Whoa.
So the topic we introduced is the tax cut bill. And by the time it's over, we're talking about poisonous orchids.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Who knows where it goes?
That's what my show Image for Hire is like. Many of my guests want to know what we'll be talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell them because, one, I don't really want to prepare. Two, I want the conversation to go wherever it goes. I think that's more interesting.
It is. And I'll give you this much at least. I think it's fun when you can circle back and find themes that happened before.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah.
The improv artists call it a callback.
Yeah.
But if you can loop back and find reasons for where you are, that's great.
That's good for the listener. It gives the listener a map.
I think the listener should be entertained.
Yes.
They should be engaged. It should be worth your time.
Yeah.
And number 2, you better be getting something worthwhile. You can be entertained for half an hour and leave with nothing. Okay, I was entertained for half an hour, but didn't change me in any way or didn't leave me anything to think about.
Sure.
So those are the 2 things. Entertain them, give them some substance, something to chew on.
The substance is not necessary, but I prefer substance.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be all kind of pretentious about this. Just in our series of conversations now, I don't know how many shows this is going to turn into. Along the way, if we haven't been the wisest people on earth. We're not doling out,
I love the
wisdom,
term sophomore.
But we're certainly giving people food for thought.
I hope so.
I'm sure of it.
Or food for opinionated anger. That's fine by me too.
Yeah, well, that's where you and I part a little bit.
I'm fine by that because at least something's happening. I think it's hard to avoid in a lot of people, right?
I need more on that.
So
what
as soon as you present an idea that worded in a way that triggers them or that instantly all their flares go up, their defenses, like the lizard with the neck that turns into a flower. Good
image. Okay. And you dropped in a little sound effect there like you were describing earlier.
Yeah, those are my favorite kind.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it's hard sometimes to avoid that, but at least that's happening.
Yeah, the instantaneous sort of emotion, anger. I'm okay with that as long as it's only part of the equation. If it really becomes the central way we communicate with each other,
yeah, well then
I got problems.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you just have to part with those people if they don't let it go.
Part with them. Part with them. I'm gonna start dropping in many more sound effects because that's pretty good.
It is. I love it. So my sound effects for a long time were always the same. For everything.
That's a good one.
It's good, but not everything goes.
Yeah, I wind up just doing kind of the Charlie Callis.
Excellent.
Talk about lowbrow. That was some good lowbrow comedy right there.
Yeah, it was almost pubic.
The lowest brow.
The lowest brow.
So there it is, episode 1 of 5, a little mini-series I'm calling Skrauss in the House with my good buddy, the Skrauss. Next time we'll talk about money, conservative versus liberal. It gets a little serious the next episode. I want to remember to mention the Skrauss. His radio program, Image for Hire, can be heard at riverwestradio.com. Go to my website, charlespurcell.com, for all the links, all the shows. Find this and all the other podcasts on Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform. It's all there. You know how this works. Thanks for listening. I'm Charles Purcell.